about anything that...
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, August 28th, 2018, and this is a voting meeting for Prescott City Council. At this time, I'd like to see if Mayor Pro Tem has any announcements or introductions.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I've got 5,000 pieces of paper here. I'd like to recognize former Mayor Marlene Kirkendall. There he is. Thank you, Mayor. And also former Yavapai County Board of Supervisor Bill Feldmeyer. Is he still here? He was here earlier for the study session. And also President of Prescott College, John Flicker. Dr. Flicker. Thank you. Yes, so Mayor Mangarelli asked me if I would like to share a few words about Senator John McCain. And I said I would love to do that. Thank you very much. And what better words for John McCain than his own words in his last official comments to America. I'm just going to pull a few excerpts from this. Our identities and sense of worth are not circumscribed, but enlarged by serving good causes bigger than ourselves. Fellow Americans, we heard him say that so many times. Fellow Americans, that association has meant more to me than any other. I lived and died a proud American. We are citizens of the world's greatest republic, a nation of ideals, not blood and soil. We are blessed, and we are a blessing to humanity when we uphold and advance those ideals at home and around the world. We have helped liberate more people from tyranny and poverty than ever before in history. We have acquired great wealth and power in the process. And finally, he said, do not despair of our present difficulties, but believe always in the promise and the greatness of America, because nothing is inevitable here. Americans never quit, we never surrender, and we never hide from history. We make history. Farewell, fellow Americans. God bless you, and God bless America. And God bless our friend, Senator John McCain, our statesman, our Arizona hero, Senator John McCain.
Thank you, Billy. I know that he's lying in state, and there's a memorial tomorrow morning down at North Phoenix Baptist Church, and then make his way to Washington, D.C. So we're very fortunate to have someone like Senator McCain represent us in our state. And at this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence for Senator McCain and his family. Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for your patience. I do apologize. We had a very full study session and went long. My apologies. Thanks for your patience. We will get moving here on this agenda. There is a lot in this agenda as well. A lot of good stuff, though, so we're excited to get to it. At this time, I'd like to introduce Pastor Misty Howick with the Prescott United Methodist Church, who will lead us in the invocation, and Councilman Good will lead us in the pledge.
It's an honor and a blessing to give the invocation for the Prescott City Council meeting today. Again, I'm Misty Howick, and I'm the Associate Pastor for Prescott United Methodist Church. Let us take this time to lift our hearts to God. God of all people, we give you thanks and praise for your work in our community. We are reminded that you work through your people to bring justice, mercy, compassion, and kindness to all. Pour out your grace and love on the City Council of Prescott today as they make decisions for the welfare of our community. Remind all of us that we should continue to care for those who do not have a means to care for themselves. Fill us so that our goals and directions are your goals and directions. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Let's call roll, please.
Mayor Mangarelli?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Orr?
Here.
Councilman Blair?
Yes.
Councilman Good?
Here.
Councilman Lamerson is excused. Councilwoman Scholl.
Here.
Councilman Sischka.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. So let's jump into proclamations here. 6A, please.
6A is Suicide Prevention Month, September 2018.
Do we have anybody here to receive this proclamation? Welcome. Step up here.
I have others with me. Can they come up?
Sure. Bring them all up.
Come on up, folks.
Leslie. It's a big group. This is the proclamation for Suicide Prevention Month in September 2018. Whereas in the United States, on average, one person dies by suicide every 8.6 minutes. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death for people of all ages. And whereas for every completed suicide, there are an estimated 25 attempted suicides, and each person's death by suicide intimately affects a minimum of 6 other people. And whereas there are 1,271 Arizonans that died by suicide in 2016, and whereas Yavapai County's per capita suicide rate is the highest in Arizona, in 2017, at least 101 Yavapai County residents ended their life by suicide. And whereas approximately 1,950 people attempted to die by suicide, and 19 citizens of Prescott died by suicide in 2017. And whereas many people who died by suicide may not have received effective behavioral health services, and whereas the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Yavapai County is comprised of representatives of behavioral health organizations, law enforcement agencies, faith communities, health coalitions, and citizen advocates who are all dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and suicide deaths, and the pain for those affected by suicide deaths through providing resources, education, and support. Now, therefore, Greg L. Mangarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott, Arizona, does hereby recognize September 2018 as Suicide Prevention Month. Thank you all.
One more.
Thank you, Councilman Good. On behalf of the council, we do want to thank all our professionals here in the city who help with suicide prevention. I know Mark Galagaski, who is here, has to deal with that a lot at the schools, and I appreciate his work as well as all those at the schools to help with suicide prevention. So thank you all for your efforts. Item 6B, please.
International Day of Peace, September 21st, 2018.
You can come on up. Proclamation, International Day of Peace, September 21st, 2018. Whereas the issue of peace embraces the deepest hopes of all peoples and remains a guiding inspiration of humanity. And whereas in 1981, the United Nations proclaimed the International Day of Peace be devoted to commemorating and strengthening the ideals of peace both within and among all nations and peoples. And whereas the United Nations expanded the observance of the International Day of Peace in 2001 to include the call for a day of global ceasefire and nonviolence, and invited all nations and people to honor the cessation of hostilities for the duration of the International Day of Peace. Whereas Prescott supports the observance of the International Day of Peace, which affirms our vision of a world at peace and fosters cooperation among individuals, organizations, and nations as members of a worldwide human community. And therefore, Greg L. Mingarelli, Mayor of the City of Prescott, does hereby proclaim September 21st, 2018 as International Day of Peace. Do you want to say a few words?
Yes.
Okay, come on up.
Thanks to Mayor Mingarelli and Prescott City Council for enacting this peace proclamation. Thank you. Our group, the Prescott Peace Builders, seek to build a culture of peace and kindness in Prescott and has a week of events centered around the International Day of Peace on Friday, September 21st. This peace proclamation will be presented at a candlelight peace vigil on the night of September 21st, when we join with cities all over the world to talk about peace. Other events include a storytelling of personal experiences of kindness, a family peace festival at Granite Park, a book study, a workshop in compassionate communication, and a wonderful movie. There are flyers in the back that give the details of our events and our website. We are grateful that Prescott officially supports these efforts towards building a more peaceful and livable community. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for being here today. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Would any members of the council like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt I move to approve consent items 7A through 7F.
Second?
We have a motion second. Please vote. Blair?
Councilman Blair?
Well, Phil's got my buttons covered up here.
So many papers.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. You guys play nice down there. All right, let's move on to item 8, consent ordinance.
Adopt ordinance number 2018-1625, authorizing the abandonment of right-of-way to Betty Newell Family Trust, Rhonda Fiello, and Martin Family Trust, and authorizing the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents to effectuate said abandonment.
Councilman Good?
Yeah, I took a pretty close look at this particular piece of property. I do understand that it was deeded to us over 100 years ago as part of a development that initially included a connection between Yavapai Drive down to Charlotte Drive and then on to Iron Springs. So it is a rather odd-looking piece of property. You can think of it as kind of a funnel shaped with a very narrow tail that is about 20 feet wide. However, in my opinion, I think it is a lot that could be built on. I've seen lots in the city that had worse sloping to them. And I actually did some calculations. It's about a 12,000 square foot lot with almost a third of an acre. And I did contact a couple of local real estate brokers to get an assessment of its potential value, and I was given an unofficial estimate of somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. So considering this is a taxpayer asset, I don't think it's appropriate to just really give this property away to the adjacent homeowners without a fair amount of compensation. All we're asking them for is $5 a piece, plus recording costs. So I would like to see this perhaps put up for auction. I did talk to Craig Dossett about this, and he said we would have to do an appraisal, and appraisal might cost $3,000 or $4,000. I'm not sure how necessary an appraisal of that scope is required for an undeveloped blank lot. But regardless, I think there is some significant taxpayer value here that should be recovered for the taxpayers and not just given away for, in essence, no benefit to the city and the taxpayers. So I would oppose this.
Other questions or comments from the council? Craig, do you have a comment? Any other questions or comments? Anything for Craig? If not,
I have a question. Craig, what would have initiated the effort to make this an abandoned right-of-way?
There was a excuse me. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Craig Dossett, Public Works. This request was initiated by property owners in the area to initiate the process of reviewing it. If I could, I'll go through a little more information about it entirely. So yes, the item, so this section of Yavapai Drive was dedicated to the public by plat of the Pine Crest subdivision in 1914, has never been utilized or developed as right-of-way by the city. City staff has determined that the area is not needed nor contemplated to be needed by the city. Due to the land have been donated to the city at no cost and the strict state statutes for release of city-owned right-of-way, staff is recommending to utilize the city quitclaim process as being requested by the adjacent property owners. The state statute requires that right-of-way to be distributed to adjoining properties that would have been originally the recipient of the properties. So if this right-of-way was not created as part of the original plat, then it would have been part of these parcels that are adjacent to it.
So does this state situation limit our ability to do what Councilman Good is proposing?
Yes, it does. State statute says that it has to be distributed to the adjacent properties, and there is appraisal and survey items that all come into play to look at the adjacent properties and divvy it up by appropriate percentages to those properties. State statute strictly limits us to that. And state statute also would not allow us to offer it for sale as a single parcel separate. Cannot be sold. However, by city code, council could ask for financial consideration for the individual pieces of property. Staff would have to create or complete an appraisal on the property to consider the cost for the consideration, and staff believes that the appraisal cost would most likely exceed the value of the property, especially when there's these individual little pieces. It can't be viewed as one whole parcel.
Have we put any assets into this right-of-way?
No. There's been no city improvements or use of the right-of-way.
Is there 5 folks that's going to be the recipient of that parcel?
There are 3 property owners that would be recipients of 4 pieces, the way it worked out.
Okay.
State statute also requires a specific government right-of-way appraisal, which generally runs us about $4,500. And each property is being estimated to incur at least $1,000 of cost to receive the property pieces. That includes the quitclaim expense, city abandonment fees, all escrow and title fees, as well as the survey costs. The property owners have paid for all the survey legal descriptions that have been produced for the individual parcels for this consideration.
So if in fact we couldn't use this as one parcel, would it be relatively, let's say, useless to the city to try and divvy it up into 3 parcels?
That's why staff is saying that the value of it is less than what it would cost ultimately in order to release the property.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and so Craig, we're also, in abandoning this, we're also taking care of any liability that the city now has on this property that will be transferred to the folks that are receiving it?
Correct, as well as it brings the property back into the tax roll.
Thank you.
And I would also suggest, Mayor, Council, that the city's acquisition of this is as right-of-way, and so we only can own it as right-of-way. So if the city were to try and use it for something other than right-of-way, it would conflict with the plat that dedicated the city as right-of-way. So that, in conjunction with what Craig's saying, is kind of the basis for this staff recommendation.
Other questions or comments?
Well, that kind of takes some of my expectation of recovery away. If it's mandatory that it go to the adjacent property owners, it just seems like it's, as an entire property, a certain value, but by breaking it up into little small pieces, if that's the absolute requirement, then there's not much value left, especially if we have to go out to this costly survey and appraisal. So just hate to see tax dollars given away, but I don't think we have much choice here.
Seeing other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-1625.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Let's move on to item 9A, please.
Adopt ordinance number 2018-1629, approving a development and disposition agreement with WSH Hospitality, LLC.
All right, and I have a potential conflict, so I need to recuse myself on this. I'll ask.
No, it's the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Shumway. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, who's presenting here? Steve?
I think the developer is going to initiate the presentation, and we have a number of staff people, myself, the city manager, Public Works is here to talk about if there are specific questions about some of the Public Works issues, and
Planning and zoning.
Heine's here also to talk about tourism and those kinds of issues too. So we're ready to address your questions.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Steve and Shane, for being here today and for your efforts. It's been a real joy to work with you guys. Appreciate your efforts on this project. So,
thank you, Mayor Mangarelli and Mayor Pro Tem Orr and council members. Glad to have the opportunity to share with you a little bit about where we've been. We'll be as brief as we can. We feel like the best opportunity is for what questions you may have, as you've had some background for this project. It might be helpful for you to know a little bit of a history that has had great influence on where this project is going, as briefly as I can be. Whiting Brothers has been a part of Arizona for 6 generations now. In fact, my boy is with me. He's a 6th-generation resident of Arizona. And in the early 1900s, our great-grandfather started Whiting Brothers. And that was in the sawmill and cattle business. It morphed into gas stations, and now it's become more hospitality. Shane and I are the owners of Whiting Brothers, and that history causes us to want to form partnerships in communities in Arizona as opposed to just being developers. With that in mind, we took that history and have worked with the city, for which to the City Council I wish to share with you that our experiences with staff have been exceptional. They've tried to work with us. They've held firm on city positions and haven't bent on what is right for the city and what's right for the community, but they've also tried to be very helpful to us when we've had questions, and just been a great experience being here with Prescott and the city. So thank you, and my compliments to you on a phenomenal staff. Maybe we could start, let's see if, just to give context of location, that's all. This is an aerial view of the project. It is at the intersection of Montezuma and Sheldon. The parking lot that is there now would remain the parking lot, and the aerial view of the hotel with the about 45-degree bend in it is what you see with the swimming pool that's connecting over then to that trestle bridge. So the reason we want to show this is just to give a little bit of an idea of the location of the project and where it would go. The couple of elevations to show you, and we'll just show you, they're very similar. The intent of these elevations was just to take the deep and vibrant history of Prescott and include it in this particular project. We love the story of Prescott and the history that's here. We have intent and desire to take that story and share it with others that are not in this community, that would draw them to this community, as well as this community, including features like the bridge, the last bit of that railroad history that's here in this community. We would have a great desire to take that and continue to use it throughout the hotel and the theme of the whole development of the theme, the hotel and the park. And then we took also just your downtown district and tried to carry on the character of that downtown district into the hotel itself. So our desire was to take what is a great story and do what we can to tell it the best we can and enhance what we believe is already a great community. The project also would include a partnership with the community on the park to the north. And so we may just share with you a little bit, maybe just again to give context, the aerial, yep. So that just gives a little bit of an idea of that area. The top lines of red would be the park area that's already Granite Park that's there, which our desire would be to partner with the community and the city to keep a park and make it a public amenity where there can be events and really carry on the same type of draw to Prescott that you've already built up. Maybe one other view of that as we share, it's the granite. Let's see, it may not be on there. Maybe that one didn't get on there. We have a preliminary design of that park area that just shows the turf that's being developed out there, connecting the areas of the pathways and trail systems that are already there, keeping them in place and just connecting them with grassy areas and potential other, playground areas, things that we can help and participate with to really make it a draw to the community. That in a nutshell is the project. We'd love to just give the time now for what questions there may be and feel like that may be most productive to answer those questions.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Before we do council comment and question, I failed to mention earlier, if you would like to make a public comment on any agenda item, there are forms there on the table. If you could grab one of those, fill it out, and get it to the clerk. You do have 3 minutes to comment. So let's go to council questions and comments from the council or anything else. City Attorney Michael, you guys have anything else?
No, I just, to kind of dovetail with what the Shumways are talking about, this project I think is a really a nice asset, a nice addition to the Granite Creek corridor. And one thing I really appreciated with Stephen and Shane is their ability to work within the confines of what they have. This lot is not ideal in a lot of respects. It's in the floodplain. It limits the potential building for the city. So them taking over something that really we haven't been able to utilize for the length of time we've had it, I think is something that we really should consider and support.
Understood. Mayor Kirkendall could probably tell us a lot of history on what's been proposed on this site off and on over the years. But I do believe this is a good fit, a good project for regentrification in this area, better utilization of some very historic pieces to to our history with the train trestle, with Sam Hill Warehouse, if you're not familiar, which is just across the way here. And so I think bringing more attention to this area with this kind of project is going to be very beneficial for our community. And so I think I appreciate your design efforts on this as well, incorporating downtown. You see some Hotel St. Michael influence and the train trestle influence, and I think that's to be commended, and I appreciate your sensitivity to that and wanting to blend into the community that way with the architecture. So let's go to comments from the council. Councilman Good.
Thank you, Mayor. I also think that this is a really significant and valuable project for utilization of an area that's been very difficult to attract development. I know we've looked at it for, I think, a fire station years ago, and there are lots of problems there with the flooding and drainage, et cetera. I'm very impressed, quite frankly, with the artist rendering and the ability to retain that historic train trestle and the Sam Hill warehouse in the back. So, all these things I think are highly valuable. But with that said, I think this is a community asset. We've got the community gardens, picnic areas, trails in the area, etc. The community utilizes this area, and I'm a little disturbed by how quickly this came to us for approval without really any public review or input. Planning and zoning hasn't seen it. There's been no public exposure, so we could consider public concerns, and I think that's a bit problematic. I mean, as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, previously, I know there's concerns about drainage, grading, parking. I have a big concern about what the traffic impact could be. We've seen many times when we have heavy monsoon downpours in that intersection, it can be a couple of feet underwater. We're asking for a very high 70-foot maximum height here, which is also not normally allowed in the city. So I just have quite a few concerns that I think need to be examined, and the public needs to be assured that this is going to be a good project. We don't want something to come in here and potentially have bad consequences down the road, both for you, the developers, and the community in general. So I'd like to see more study here before we make a final decision.
Mayor, if I can comment to that. A couple of issues. First, this is the development where the hotel and parking lot are going to go, or downtown business district. So technically, it wouldn't require any parking under that zoning. In other words, development downtown doesn't require its own parking. Obviously, for business purposes, this hotel is going to have parking. There is going to be subsequent to this process to the downtown business district to move it slightly to the north to encompass where the hotel parcel sort of sits. So in other words, there's going to be a rezoning subsequent to today's meeting. And then the height issue would also have to go through a special use permit process to go from the allowed 50 to the approved 70, which also goes. So both of those go through Planning Commission. Both of those go to the council for approval. So those particular issues get addressed in a sort of separate process. Obviously, if the council approves this today, but those matters don't get approved for some reason, then the whole deal sort of goes away. So so there is a sort of process to deal with the specific concerns Councilman Good raised, and so I think that certainly the council has the option of its agendized to vote on today, but if the whole council feels the same way, then you can continue this to a different date. I mean, that's obviously always an option to you.
Thank you, Mr. Palladini. Councilman Sischka.
Yeah, so are we approving the hotel today?
We're approving the agreement, the disposition and development agreement.
So, but that's different than approving the physical hotel.
Well, the property is zoned for, this downtown business district, so a hotel is an allowable use on the property. The rezoning would only move the downtown business district line slightly to the north to sort of accommodate the whole building. The remainder of that park parcel that was shown remains park zoning or recreational use zoning. So the park portion to the north remains the same. It's just the hotel is where the way the hotel is sited on the property, the downtown business district needs to be moved slightly to the north. So there's technically going to be a rezoning from recreational to downtown business district, but the bulk of that park area remains recreational use zoning, and then the SUP, which is for the height, also has to go through a separate process.
Okay, so are we following normal procedures today?
I believe we are, because first of all, this is really not a normal thing we've done, right? I mean, this is a city-owned property, as we've discussed. I think Michael said this is an underused or unused or certainly underutilized piece of property the city owns, and so by going through the process and adopting a development and disposition agreement, which is the agreement to lease the ground lease the property to the developer, and then to set up the development standards for the project. Subsequent to this, we could go through the zoning and the special use permitting process. But the things like flood issues and traffic studies and all that would all be done. That's all done as part of the permitting process, and certainly. And the Shumways can address it more specifically than I can. The issue with dealing with the floodway and flood zone and FEMA, that's currently in the works. So that's all going to have to be addressed before we can even issue any kind of building permits or grading permits or anything like that.
So are we saying that, assuming everything else comes out, that this agreement would be followed through on?
Yes.
Okay.
And the condition of the agreement would be obviously the rezoning of that small piece from recreation to downtown business district, and the special use permit to raise the height to 70 feet. Noting that, and we, sort of getting at that the trees in the area, I think, are like 90 feet or 100 feet. So, but that's something there's a bunch of factors in the land development code that you look at when you're looking at a special use permit for height. There's a whole bunch of factors you look at. And essentially is it compatible with the area?
Right. I remember the bank building down there, the National Bank building. They wanted a variance for height, but I think that people's biggest objection to the bank building was that it looked like it was on Camelback Avenue.
Right.
Camelback Road. And not Prescott, Arizona.
And I think this is not that.
No, this is not that. I have a question for the Shumways.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of opportunities are provided by Sam Hill Warehouse?
We've invited John Flicker here, who's the president of Prescott College. Because of where we are in our discussions with them, could we let him respond to that?
Sure.
Because he controls that.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Stephen, members of the council. I'm John Flicker, president of Prescott College. I want to start by saying that we think this hotel development has the potential to be a very positive thing for the area, positive for the community, positive for the college. We've had some very constructive discussions with the Shumway so far about the potential of Sam Hill property. As we look at the Sam Hill property, this is a property we acquired in 1993, back when nobody was investing in this part of town. And over the years, we've made considerable investments protecting the architectural integrity of this building, maintaining the structural integrity. It's now on the National Historic Register. And as our enrollment is growing at the college, and particularly the Arts and Humanities program that's been housed there is growing, we're looking to the future needs of the campus. And when we look at the future of this property, we look at our neighbors, which is we're surrounded by city property and APS property. APS is in the process of vacating that site and moving the substation. We've been discussing with APS the potential of acquiring that property and adding it to the campus. Those discussions are going well, but nothing's been nailed down yet. So as we look at, I think all of these properties are underutilized right now and have the potential for considerably more utilization. So what we're trying to do is have the city and APS and the college kind of figure out how do we maximize utilization of all of these properties and have a win-win for the city, for APS, for us, and for the Shumways. Those are ongoing discussions right now, very positive, but nothing's been nailed down. We want to be at the table to make this happen in some way. How would those end up? I don't know yet. Another important thing for us is we want to connect our campus. Our major campus is on the west side of Grove Avenue, and then we have property on the east side of Grove Avenue. Crossing Grove Avenue for our students is very difficult. There the city can play a very critical role in completing the trail system along Thumb Butte to go under Grove Avenue so that we can connect our campus. So the ability to grow and the ability to connect our campus is essential to our future. So we need Shumways, the city, APS, and everybody sort of at the table. How do we make this work? There's a way to make this a win-win for all of us. Timing becomes an issue. APS may not be ready when we're ready. That's all in discussion yet. We want to make this work. I think there are several ways we can make it work. So we want to continue those discussions. We want, and Michael Lamar has been very helpful in this all along, to figure out how do we maximize the opportunities for everybody. So we want to be part of this and have a positive solution so that we can all proceed with where we need to go.
You know, one of the difficult things, and I appreciate John's frankness about this, we didn't want to put anybody else on the spot that was involved in all this, but this is a larger concept that isn't just this hotel project or just the Granite Creek Corridor revitalization. This is a paradigm shift for an underutilized section of downtown. But the linchpin in this whole thing is Hilton Garden. Right. So if you don't have the private partner to spur all this, this is a lot of talk and no action.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Anything else, Councilman Shiska?
Yes, the only other question I had was, again, what are the opportunities that are presented by acquisition of such a property?
Can we just talk about the amenities that we would like to offer, and
Sure.
maybe that will answer your question.
Yeah.
So we do think that there's a need for conference space in the downtown area, and we are planning some conference space in the hotel itself. We believe that there's also some opportunities that, I mean, the Sam Hill Warehouse is just a great building for that type of use. And so if you can open it up for conferences, for weddings, for event type things, it really becomes a great use. And what you do is you tie the hotel and you connect it with the railroad bridge over to the Sam Hill Warehouse, and it creates lots of efficiencies for it.
Thank you.
Councilman Blair?
I hate to sound like Betty Ruffner, but a history lesson would probably be good right here. and I can remember, growing up in this community, that right where that hotel is now, that used to be called Hobo Jungle. And it was called that for a reason. When the trains would stop at night, all the hobos would get off the train and they would sleep in the jungle. At that point in time, it was indeed a jungle. 1979, working for the state of Arizona, I helped clean up phase 2 of Granite Creek Park, which became A.C. Williams Park. And there was more car bodies that were probably pulled out of that drainage area in that whole area, which was downtrodden. It was absolutely a disaster in there. It's moved in a lot of great directions. Sam Hill Hardware was indeed a hardware, storage facility that they would transfer stuff from the hardware over to the store on Montezuma Street. And a lot of good things happened, but over the years, that whole area fell kind of fallow. And I think by looking at a vision as what we should have as a community into the future, what this can be for rehabilitating the trail system, making that area work. We're short of hotel space, bringing a history of the railroad and that bridge back to life on that corner, and tying in the whole downtown core, which means instead of having so many programs maybe at the Courthouse Plaza, we can move them down into Hobo Jungle so that you have that corridor that's cleaned up with a nice hotel. Thank you, Mr. Flicker. When you have Prescott College was expanding, Prescott College came to us and said we need the DES building, we need to close down a road, and this council at the time stood up and did that.
So I look at this as a huge partnership, not only between the private sector, thank you very much for wanting to invest in the community, the city and everybody involved, Prescott College. So as this thing moves forward, I would support this 100%. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Councilman, for that history lesson. And I do agree. I think this is a landmark deal that we have in front of us. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to say we're in the Sam Hill. No, I tell you, Steve and Shane, you've just been, you brought a real blessing to the city of Prescott, and with your offer to come in and do business here and help us build this, redevelop this entire area. And I have to give hats off to Michael Lamar. Michael really did help put all of this together, and to Dr. Flicker, and there's just huge opportunity here for our city. Very timely. And we've been talking about expanding the entertainment district and what we can do for our city based on, but the first domino needs to fall. And you know, typically of government, it's hard to get that first one going. So I'm all for getting this first one going. And let's make this happen. And just God bless you for wanting to come to Prescott and get this done. Thank you.
Councilman Good.
Well, I believe we have a pretty effective process in effect here in the city. Why we're reversing it here in this particular situation is a bit of a head scratcher for me. We've got some real top quality people on our Planning and Zoning Commission that can look at projects like this, see things that even with my limited experience I'd probably miss. I think the community needs to understand this project, what its effect would be, and make sure that they understand the value and how it's constructed. I've had people say to me, well, wow, this big hotel operator's coming in and they're paying $1,250 a month for a lease with a purchase option of $300,000. That doesn't seem like a fair value. But then I look at the amount of capital you're going to have to expend to get this site buildable, and there's a lot of money that's going to have to be paid by you to make this work. So I'm sure that's an offset, but again, I think we have a process here that I would like to see worked through in a little more deliberate way so that the community understands the project and can support it and not feel that this is just kind of a rushed decision. So again, I think it's a great project. I love the design. It just fits in so well with the downtown architecture, and being able to include some of these historic components is just great. But I'd like to see it delayed and reviewed more before it comes back to us for a final decision.
Mayor, could I just comment on that? I think it's a valid question about values, and something that we've had considerable experience with for a long time in our business. The designation of the actual property moved from a floodplain to a floodway. When that happened, you'll see two things occur with values of property. Just that designation alone devalues a property to where any value that was there before is now offset by the cost to build. There will be contributions in more ways than just in the hotel too for the value of the property. So for example, appraisals are lining up. I think the city can look at this and find we're being fair from that end. But I also think that when you look at what it costs in floodway, that's why nobody's been able to do this, and we hope we are. So that cost we hope to offset. But as I mentioned, our intent is to be a partner in the community. So our contributions aren't going to be just at the boundary of the hotel. We expect to participate in the park. We expect to participate in the trestle. We expect to do things that really we hope wouldn't be costs that we typically have in the land, but which we hope people will understand the value of and say, wow, really, not only they're paying a fair market value for it, but they're paying more than that because they're willing to be a partner in the community. And we're hoping that's what is seen.
Yeah, understood. And I think at the face value, I can understand why people may seem like it is undervalued, but when you start looking at the floodway and what it takes to build there, when you start looking at the economic impact from bed tax, sales tax, et cetera, it really changes the picture. Never mind the fact that you're such a great community partner with what you're going to do with the park and the trestle, et cetera. So I appreciate those comments. Councilman Blair?
Just a quick comment. Anybody that's willing to bring their money to this community and expend it here, I got to give a tip of the hat. And the bottom line is there's a lot of public process that still has to be jumped through, which you guys already know that. And I remember when Prescott Lakes first came to the city of Prescott, and the idea is do we have a chance by the voting public, meaning the people that the public elected us to represent, is there a need for the project we're trying to provide? And as a developer, people want to know that up front, or they wouldn't be standing here. They'll go invest their money somewhere else. So we as a collective elected body either give them a thumbs up that we're interested in what you want to do, and then we go through the process, and that's what I'm here to support today.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I would just like to say this property has been sitting there for quite some time and not collecting good things. And I just think that this is a true opportunity for Prescott today to put its arms around and let's get going with this and let's make it happen for our city.
All right, with that, I think we'll open to public comment. Remember, your comments are for the council, not for staff or the owner of the developer. And we're going to limit you to 3 minutes. We do have a little light. Is that working today? All right. So go ahead.
Ralph Hess.
Good afternoon. I have 4 questions. 1, recognizing the history of Prescott City Council's circumvention of the public's desire and vote to acquire and preserve open space within the city, why have you not sought comments and opinions from the public prior to today? I only have 3 minutes, please. The day you intend to vote on this proposed lease purchase agreement to determine whether we prefer to preserve and enhance the public open space rather than privatize it for a hotel. 2, unless the council has complied, what is it about this proposed lease purchase agreement that provides the basis or bases upon which you conclude that council may circumvent compliance with the requirements of Prescott City Charter Article 8, Sections 11 and 12. Section 11, leases of the city property provides in part prior to the approval and execution of any lease, the city shall publish a notice of intent to lease city property at least 1 time per week for 2 weeks. Section 12, sale of city property provides in part, the council may sell such portions of real and personal property of the city not needed or not likely to be needed within a reasonable future time. Each sale shall be made on such conditions as the council may prescribe to the highest responsible bidder. After published notice of the sale in accordance with the following schedule, and that's subsection 2 under that is, real property shall be sold after published notice of sale for at least 1 time per week for 3 weeks prior to opening bids. This is the first time I've ever heard of it, other than when it was in the Courier on Saturday, I guess. Number 3, similarly, unless the council has complied, what is it about this proposed lease purchase agreement that provides the basis or bases upon which you conclude that the council may circumvent compliance with the requirements of Arizona Revised Statute Section 9402, which are similar provisions as that of the Prescott City Charter? Number 4, how did you determine that 2 acres of land, and we've heard a lot of conversations about the value and some anecdotal information, but I'm asking for you to give us the financial basis upon how did you determine that 2 acres of land, what I expect to be one of the most valuable intersections in the city, has a lease value of only $15,000 per year and $300,000 for a sale value after 5 years. I've written all of these questions down since I would not be able to remember probably all of them if I were you, and I would hope that you would give me answers.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. Next public comment, please.
Daniel Matson.
Hello, I'm Daniel Matson. I live over on Merritt Street. I'm also part of Granite Creek Hunger Ministry, so this unused property we use to feed the homeless every Saturday during the summer. It's a park that's valued by the Dexter neighborhood. And if you put up that footprint again, which this is the first day I've had an opportunity to see the footprint where the actual building is going to be. Nobody else has seen it. It hasn't been printed in the packet. So I haven't had a chance to really consider it, nor has any other members of the public. Since Saturday, when it went in the newspaper, I have had literally dozens of people approach me and say, what the heck is the city council doing? This may be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you haven't given anybody an opportunity to look at it, to ask questions, to hear answers, to think it over, to come in and buy into it or anything. I think it's a travesty to circumvent the public's right to understand this project. We may all say, woo-hoo, it's the most wonderful thing you've ever done, but if you vote on it today, I guarantee you a large portion of the city is going to say, you sidestepped our ability to talk about it, to ask about it, to have any input at all. I highly recommend that you table this for now. I don't see that it's not going to be agreed to. I mean, eventually, give us an opportunity to give our input. Give us the justification for the, I understand the value. $1,200 is not paying for the value of the property. It's, a deal to let them put this thing in that's going to benefit all of us. Great. But we have a lot of questions. 3 minutes isn't enough time to even begin asking the questions, let alone when I get the answers, that might bring up more questions. I was involved in the general plan. Okay, I thumbed through this. The general plan seems to suggest that the citizens of the city should have an opportunity to have input on any major changes in the city. Now, maybe legally you guys are in your rights to do this. Ethically, I really don't think so. I think you need to give us an opportunity to look it over, to think about it, to ask questions, to get answers, give our input. Who knows? Maybe somebody's got some ideas that'll actually make this better before you sign the deal. And John never really gave you a straight answer on your question about if you vote for this today, does this mean we're agreeing to a hotel? If you read the paperwork, yes, it does. And I found an error in your paperwork. If you give us a little time, I can show you where you've got leaseor where leasee belongs. So maybe we can find more issues if you give us a little time to look it over. Please don't vote on this today.
Thank you.
Howard Mechanic.
I'm Mayor and Council Howard Mechanic. I live in Prescott. First thing I'd like to address is what Mr. Shumway was talking about, an appraisal. Normally you get the appraisal before the purchase, not afterwards. He's talking about getting appraisal later. This contract is not subject to appraisal as far as I know. Let's get an appraisal first, then decide what the property's worth. Then sell it at the public's interest of selling a property at appraised value, not at some kind of subsidized price. There has been questions there. I think we can resolve that very easily by an appraisal. At least one or two members of council have talked about the council shouldn't select winners and losers. Looks like a winner to me, getting something at a subsidized price. Now, I have a concern like Mr. Hess, because I reviewed the law. It says any property that the city sells must be subject to bidding. So I'm just baffled. Even if you structure this as an 80-year lease and take out this purchase option, we could interpret that as some way to get around the state law, as some kind of loophole. Because if somebody gets an 80-year lease, it's almost the same as purchase. Why not Now, there was suggestions that we've tried to do something with this property. When did that happen? When was there a public notice that the city wanted to dispose of this property and we want to get offers and see what interest there is out there? You're saying it's sitting there. Maybe it's sitting there because nobody knew it was available. These gentlemen came in, they didn't know it was available. They were looking to buy private property, and I assumed they would get that at market rate. Are they getting something here below market rate? The article in the paper said they built something in Flagstaff. I did a little research. I didn't see them getting anything from the city of Flagstaff as far as a subsidy. Why is the city throwing money at the first developer who walks in the door? Maybe there are other developers. And I don't say that this project is bad. We definitely need some time, and I appreciate what Mr. Good said. We need some time to review this. What is the rush here? Is this a railroad operation, or is this a transparency operation? The state law was put in effect to have a bidding process so the public interest would not be betrayed by a backdoor sweetheart deal. We need to be confident that there is no backdoor, backroom sweetheart deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mechanic.
Leslie Hoy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm going to try not to repeat anything that other people have said. But I too am really dismayed that we are having this come before us without a study session, and I don't really see a point, but I do want to first start by reading on page 63 of the packet, recital E, where it says, the developer has submitted a proposal to the city that requires participation by the city in order to accomplish the project. The city is concerned that its failure to offer to developer the terms and incentives set forth in this agreement will likely result in the developer not undertaking the project. I have never in my entire life seen anything like that in a contract. I mean, roll over and play dead. Now, I have several questions about substantive things, which today's the only day to get to ask them. It says that water and sewer ratepayers will be paying for the public works improvements because it's going to be coming out of the water and sewer fund. I would like to see that be justified, and I'd like to know what the numbers are. I would like to know how you arrived at the amount of the lease and the purchase price for the land, which is my 1,750 square foot house is worth more than that. I would like to know how you arrived at the benefits listed in on packet page 64. Are they assumptions, or are they based on, can't read my writing, on evidence from comparable circumstances? And if so, please cite them. So I think we need another meeting where you could answer that question. And also, on page 94, it says that the city's responsible for landscaping the park and paying for it. How will it be paid for? What will be the process for design and approval? What guidelines will be given to the developer prior to the development of the landscape plan? Will rainwater harvesting and low water use plants be used? And then when somebody said that this is going to planning and zoning, but if I can find it, it says on page 80, under item number 3, under rezoning and development agreement amendments, the city shall not initiate any changes or modifications to the zoning for the property except at the request of the developer. So apparently the developer is going to request a change. The city agrees that the design review process pursuant to section 9.8 of the City Land Development Code is administrative and will not require public hearings by the Planning and Zoning Commission or City Council. Why, if this is such a great deal, which it sounds like it could be, but why are you cutting out the public? I just really don't understand that.
Thank you, Ms. Hoy.
John Lister.
John Lister. I live at 228 North Granite Street, about 150 feet away from the railroad bridge. I'm right on the creek, so my only question is, I saw the plan. It looks like is the creek going to be diverted once it gets past the railroad bridge, or I don't want something that's going to back up the creek. In 2010, I think we had about 2 feet of water running down Granite Creek, or down Granite Street from the creek. So I didn't see anything there. It looked like there was no creek in the plan. So that's all I want to know, just how you're going to take care of the flow of the creek.
Yeah, that's all considered with the drainage analysis and the FEMA process as well.
Okay, can someone show me at some point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't have any other problems with it. That's it.
Thank you.
John Wolfinger.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is John Wolfinger, second-generation Prescottonian. I pastor at Restoration Church just to the south of the project. Thank you for your work on this project, and generally it seems great. I'm going to set a record for a pastor today, and that's not use 3 minutes given. My only question surrounds the parking situation and the consideration of the 62 spots that are currently there and what the agreement might be with the public concerning that. Thank you.
Do we really want to, I don't know if you want to talk about that today, but there is some additional options on the table in terms of accommodating parking in that location.
Yeah, no, we failed to mention that in the presentation, but there are some things that we can't talk about just yet that are in the works to address parking in the general area. Next one.
Jasmine Enriquez wants me to read her comment. We are concerned that the project came about without thorough evaluation as a public something 15,000 asset for $15,000 a year. Lease agreement is not enough consideration for the value of the land. Appraisal needs to be conducted, park improvement being potentially put up for auction, paid by bed tax.
Can I add something to the factoring in of the value? You know, I'm sure most of you are aware that the city levies a resort tax and also levies sales tax. The resort tax, Mark, if I'm not wrong, is 3%. Is that correct? Bed tax. And we levy 2 cents for sales tax and 0.75 for the PSPRS paydown. So we levy 5.75 cents on hotel rooms. Is that correct? So if you did an average of $100 a night times $5.75 times an occupancy rate. John Heine, are you in here somewhere? About 60%. 60% in 95 rooms is about 60 rooms. 60 times $5.75 times, what was the last part of the equation? 365 days a year is about $150,000. So by the nature of the business that's going at this location, I think it's kind of short-sighted and tunnel vision not to see that there's additional value to the city's coffers coming from an alternative source.
Public comment, anything else?
Rick Mabry.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, I'm Rick Mabry. My wife and I own the Little Victorian, which is Lot 3, immediately adjacent to the parking lot. We share the concerns that we've heard. We think it's a wonderful concept. We would welcome the idea of the development and things like that, but there's not enough detail for us to be adequately informed at this point in time. These are serious questions, serious money, and we would suggest that the council, before they enter into any type of a development agreement, that concedes ownership and use of a piece of city property that's vital to downtown, such as the parking, that those issues be addressed and be open for public comment and concern. That's why we're here. We think it's a great concept. We would love to see the Shumways here. We think they would be a great asset to the city of Prescott, but we think it has to be done in a way that doesn't adversely affect the other folks that are here. That's our comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayberry. Anything else? Public comment?
Yes. David Wood.
I'm a lousy public speaker, but I just wanted to point out I'm homeless. I eat there 3 times a day. It would be in the lobby of the hotel. What are they going to do to help the homeless they're displacing? The church, the pastor here, I'm in that parking lot a lot. That parking lot fills up 2 times every Sunday morning entirely. Now, from the picture, it looked like you're giving that entire parking lot to these people here. That's a community parking lot that for parades completely fills up, plus. You completely fill it, and people park illegally in addition to that in that parking lot for parades. So what are you going to do to take care of those people? I understand it's a Superfund toxic waste dump there. That's what I heard from people who live in this town a long time. I've been here 10 years. But people who grew up here say that's a Superfund toxic waste dump where you're going to excavate for a 7-story building and not pour toxic waste into the creek and into our drinking water. So maybe we should ask the people of Flint, Michigan what they think about that kind of thing. Those are the main things. And that is it's open space. I'm from New York originally. I didn't grow up there, thank God. I grew up outside of it. And I've been gone a long, long time. But I've never heard of them since they founded Central Park, the first city park in the country, ever giving up any real estate to privatize it, to give it to anybody. It belongs to all the people. Now, $15,000, oh, here's what I wanted to say. You were talking about how much money you're going to make on the bed tax. Well, it seems to me that when you bring in an extra hotel, you diminish the numbers of people staying in the existing hotels. There is no increase in the tax. It's kind of like saying if you double the number of supermarkets, you'll make twice as much on food tax. You make nothing more. So this is a bad deal for everybody. A lot of people are getting screwed, and you're not caring what's happening to these people. And a lot of people are getting very, very pissed, wondering why this is done under the table. I think there's dirty money here. I think you people are a bunch of crooks. This is the only honest man sitting here right now on the city council. And you can take your 38 cents a year per capita that we're going to get out of this and stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
Joanna Hawley.
Prescott. Jesus Christ.
Hello, I'm Joanna Hawley, and I came to this community in 1996, and when we were looking for a home, we went all around, and I thought, I want to move into the Dexter neighborhood because I wanted to bring it together. The city had forgotten the Dexter neighborhood, and so I started trying to work with the city. And the city thought that was just a bad part of town. They didn't want anything to do with it. And I wanted to get some trails through there and clean up all the debris around the creeks. The creeks were horrible. They had a lot of old beds and old cars and junk everywhere. And I thought, this is my first project. And my partner, who has died, was very helpful to me, and we worked together. His name was Tom Pettit, and we got the park right there that you want to take over, called the Tom Pettit Community Park, where they feed the homeless, but they also, it has a wonderful entrance to the greenways. And also we have the obelisk. I got the obelisk going. The city didn't care about that either. And we wanted all the kids in the schools to participate, because this was during 9/11, and we wanted to make a life type monument rather than something that's that would relate to the 9/11 as something horrible. We wanted to continue on with life. And it's a beautiful monument. It also has a lot of little charts from the Chinese that I found in the grounds around there. There's a lot of wonderful history in that. And I think this would be a fine thing, but I think it's very important to think about the community as itself. It's the lower class as far as finances, the Dexter neighborhood, but the city didn't want to do anything about it. And I wanted to get some trails in there, and we worked and worked, and we got people together, the Greenways people and Open Space, and we got Prescott Alternative Transportation and everything, and we finally got it started because somebody was murdered in that park. And the city said, we got to do something. And the first thing they did is start chopping down trees. And I said, no, the trees didn't kill anything, you know. We need to clean up the area and make it workable. And so we started making it workable, and the city started to join us. But I just think it's important because not to build a beautiful building and then we'll plant grass and flowers and everything. We already have the natural beauty. We need to really enjoy and appreciate the natural beauty of the greenways and the creeks. That's the beauty of Prescott. Not trimmed lawns and everything. It was a beautiful place when we cleaned it up. And I think it's important for us to understand why we are so unique. Instead of tearing down and moving, I don't know the terms, but I just think it's real important for us to see what we really have. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the council at this time?
I have a question, Mayor.
Councilwoman Scholl.
If we were to table this for today and allow some sort of public comment, something that we typically do, what would that look like?
Well, your next council meeting is September 11. But you know, and Mayor, I'm happy to address a number of the questions that were posed to the council, and I'm sure Mr. Lamar has some responses, and there are other staff folks here who can address some of the issues. Let me just start. Where do I start? The lease price and the purchase price were done based on what's called the broker's opinion. It's not a full-blown appraisal, but the broker's opinion from our staff real estate specialist, who is a real estate broker, established that these numbers are within the right range. In other words, even if you got an appraisal, that doesn't mean somebody's going to pay that price for that property. That's an educated assessment of what a property is worth, even if you do a full-blown appraisal. And Councilman Good hit it right on the head. The value of that property is dramatically affected by the flood zone and floodway issues. It is as it stands now undevelopable without significant engineering and significant earthworks. The engineering will actually improve, to address I think one gentleman's concerns, improve the drainage as it flows downstream. So it's intended to obviously reduce the backup up to Granite Street as the water flows. Can you guys put up the aerial view?
Is this still working?
Okay, so, well, how about the bigger picture that shows the whole area? So I just want to make clear that the property. Can you hit the light, Mayor, please? So if you look at the red box, that's and the parking lot to the bottom of that, that's the extent of the hotel project as was being proposed. The big weird-shaped red box to above that is the park area that's going to remain city-owned park. The plan here, and Joe Baines is working with the landscape architect, is to do a landscape, a park plan for that big area to make it much more usable, much more accessible, and much more functional for all the residents and visitors of the city. In fact, there's a discussion about making it, not like the courthouse square type event use, but some type of events could go down in that area. It also then ties in as you go underneath Montezuma to Granite Creek Park, and it also is an anchor for, I think it was the last meeting when the young professional group of Prescott talked about our Creek Greenway to the middle school. So this becomes an anchor for that. So lest anyone think that we're developing this park, you're absolutely wrong. And this park area, that big red box, is going to remain city-owned park, and it's going to be, as part of this project, developed, landscape developed. No real hard structures or buildings, necessarily. There's going to be, parking is going to be addressed in that to address some of the issues. There are a number of options. So that area will remain park. The rezoning I mentioned earlier really is just a small portion of that larger park from recreation use to downtown business district. The downtown business district development design review has never required public comment, has never required a planning commission review. We don't have a public design review in the city of Prescott. There are a few cities in the state that do. We don't do that. So design review, particularly downtown, is always done at a staff level. That provision that was read to you it simply acknowledges that process. Will there be additional public input issues if the council were to choose to approve this today? And by approving this today, it starts the process going forward. A rezoning to rezone that small portion of what's currently park to downtown business district, the SUP, site plan approval in connection with the water service agreement, that all goes to planning commission and council. So there are subsequent approvals. This again starts the deal. So I think the as far as the was raised about following the city's procedures, the city ran notices about the lease as required by our charter. The city ran notices in the Courier for 2 weeks prior to this meeting, in the Courier, in the notice section, just like we always would do. That's been in the Courier. This is not a sale of a property. Our charter says if we're going to sell it, we have to go to a public bidding process. But it also says, if you continue reading, that the council has the right to not necessarily sell to the highest bidder, but on terms and conditions it deems best interest of the city. But I'll remind you that we're not selling the property. This is an option to purchase. It's a different kind of property right. Our charter is silent on an option to purchase. So this is a lease agreement. I will make it absolutely clear. A 90-year lease is not a purchase. It is still a lease. This is a ground lease deal, and it's an option to purchase. So this does not require the city to go to highest bidder because it's only an option to purchase. Our charter, the state law, and our city code are silent on that. So at the end of the day, it becomes the terms that the council deems in the best interest of the city to enter into the lease, because you can enter into a lease with a direct negotiation, which this was, and under the terms and conditions in the best interest of the city as determined by the city council. And that's what this agreement does. So we have a disposition agreement, which is the ground lease, and we have a development agreement, which starts the process. The city's contribution and I think this is in the memo, the city's contribution in terms of expenditures, at this point, there are no general fund monies. Okay, I want to make that clear. There's no general fund money is going to be put into this project. The revenues go into the general fund, but the expenditures don't come out of general fund. This developer will pay for tap fees, sewer tap fees, water tap fees, just like any other development would in terms of hooking into the city's water and sewer system. There are some There are some realignment of some of the water and sewer lines that need to happen. But the Public Works Director described to me the sewer and water lines down there as a spider web. So clearly needs to be worked on. The intersection doesn't take any physical improvements other than some restriping at that Sheldon-Montezuma intersection, and then the light that's going to get installed, the fourth side of the light to get installed coming out of the parking lot, which is the developer's share of the expenses. So I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that I may have missed, but I'm trying to go through this as sort of expeditiously as possible.
I think it's one thing, John, to add. The area where the hotel is going to go in the parking lot, neither of that was ever open space. One was purchased for a fire department, and the other was a street improvement. So there's not one iota of open space being taken away that was ever planned to be open space at any point in the city district.
And again, it's important to distinguish, it's not a technicality, that park is not open space, it's zoned recreation space. There's a big difference between open space and recreation. Recreation space is basically a city park. So the Granite Creek Park is zoned recreation, not open space, and there's a difference between those. So,
and one thing, right on the top left corner of the big red box next to the asphalt, that was an APS site, still is. It had diesel damage fuel from years and years and years of diesel operation. That whole site was rectified at reclamation in 2001 by APS. They paid tons of money, brought in dirt, and reclaimed that whole area. So it is not a Superfund site.
And I guess to address one last issue, and again, the Public Works Director is here if you have specific questions on that, and Joe, I think Joe Baines is here somewhere.
Joe's here. He's here.
Oh, there's, and so if you have specific questions about those parts of the project, but you know, this is the first, at least in my tenure, and I think probably prior to this, the other was the Trader. The similar deal to the city was Trader Joe's. I mean, that's the similarity of this deal to the last time the city did that, and obviously that's been a smashing success. There is no sort of model to do this for Prescott. We don't have in our code or our charter a process to do this. So we have to sort of create the process. And the question is what do you do first? Do you go rezone it? Do you go through site plan approval? Do you go through SUP? Or do you do this agreement which kicks the process off, and there's still time for particular project specific site plan issues to be discussed at both Planning Commission and City Council. So it was determined, you know, that this is the best way to start this process forward, and you know, I guess at this point I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I said, we have a full staff here to address specific, you know, special issues that you may have.
So John, just to reiterate, the opportunities for public comment are special use permit, rezoning, site plan review.
You see, their site plan, site plan approval is really in connection with the water service agreement. So you look at it, you know, to make, and again, reiterate, downtown business district doesn't require any parking. So you know, and design review is always done. It's always done at a staff level. We don't have a public design approval process.
But to Councilwoman's point, each of those instances will have public input,
Right.
regardless of the order.
So I need respectfully to ask that in the audience we keep it quiet so we can hear what's going on up here. Councilwoman Scholl, did that answer your question about those different points of opportunity for public comment?
Yeah, I just want the audience to know that there still is an opportunity to come before us and talk about.
You know, right. So again, there may be one meeting to address all three of those at the Planning Commission, and then one at the council. So at minimum, two additional meetings. Or they may be done separately. I don't suspect the latter, but that's always possible. But certainly, you know, and obviously you've heard the public's concerns or comments here, and you take those into consideration to make your decision to vote yes, no, or later. You know, we're going to push it off. That you've had the public comment here, so you take those into consideration when you make any decision.
Councilman Shishka.
Thank you. So when I asked you before, I said, does the development and disposition agreement trump any of the or of the public meetings after the development and disposition agreement?
The answer is if the rezoning and the special use permit are not approved, essentially the agreement would be canceled.
So we're not circumventing the public.
We're not.
And
our normal process, to the extent that you can call this normal, which if you think about what more than 10 years ago we did Trader Joe's and now we're doing this, that's the only sort of example I can think of that has a similarity. So what's normal? But the process, no, an agreement doesn't circumvent it. This project would require, and again, let me make clear, the rezoning is simply moving the business district up. If that's not approved, this deal goes away. This development agreement is canceled and the project goes away. If the special use permit isn't approved to 70 feet, presumably the project goes away because it doesn't pencil out because they can't get their extra floor in.
And so with you sitting here, I can't believe that we would be circumventing the charter. Is that
We are not.
true?
We are not circumventing the charter. We publish the notice of the lease as required by the charter. The charter allows the city council to enter into a lease in one of three ways, one of which is direct negotiation, and that's what this lease is. The charter talks about selling property, but it's silent as to granting an option, which is a different kind of property right. So because the charter is silent, we fall back on, did we follow the intent of the leasing of city property, which is under terms and conditions deemed by the council to be in the best interest of the city? So that's the question for you. Is this development disposition agreement to dispose of the property by way of a ground lease, is it under terms and conditions that you deem as the city council in the best interest of the city? Consistent with the charter.
And your opinion is that it is consistent with the charter?
Wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Other questions or comments from the council?
No, but I'd like to move that we table this issue until after those meetings occur, and then we reconsider it after those public meetings and Prescott, City of Prescott's Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed the annexation and the other concerns.
What annexation?
No, you mean the rezoning. You misspoke. There's no annexation.
No, I didn't. I said when they review the rezoning. The rezoning. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Did I say annexation?
Yeah, it's okay.
I apologize.
No, understood. We have a motion. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion dies. Do I hear a motion in regard to what's in front of you here on item 9A?
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-1629.
Second.
We have a motion second. Please vote.
Passes 5-1.
All right, thank you for that. Let's move on to item 9B.
Public hearing for proposed annexation for Whispering Rock. Owner is Dr. Ascari. County zoning is R1L-35 residential.
Okay. Yeah, item 9B, and I have a potential conflict, so I need to step out. This is the right one. Yeah.
So presentation will be made by?
It's actually going to be made by George.
There we go. So Bryn Stotler, welcome to the city, Bryn.
Thank you. I actually just wanted to introduce myself to those of you that I don't know, Mayor Pro Tem Orr and members of the council. Thank you so much for the warm welcome that you've extended me in my first weeks as your newly appointed Community Development Director. I've been taking the opportunity to get to know staff and getting settled into my new digs, and I'm very delighted to be here working with the talented community development team, and just wanted to say hello formally, and with that I'll turn it over to George.
And Bryn, we're very happy to have you at the city, so thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This is a public hearing associated with a proposed annexation of property north side of Prescott. It's east side of Willow Creek Road, and just north of Heritage Park. The property that's proposed to be annexed into the city follows a certain process that's established by state law, certain steps that must be taken in order to follow through on an annexation. One of those steps is to hold a public hearing prior to actually accepting signatures on the application itself, the petition for the annexation. That's what this step is today. There are a number of other pieces that are associated with anticipated development of this property, but the beginning of it is to initiate the annexation process with this public hearing. The proposal is to annex property in from the county that's currently a residential zoning, to initially zone it something equivalent in the city, so it would be zoned a residential district, but immediately thereafter, rezone it to a commercial designation and adopt a subdivision plat that would create a commercial subdivision at this location that would allow for a number of retail and medically related businesses, variety of different types of businesses at the location. Some of the information that's associated with proposed development is also associated with a development agreement that would in fact share some of the costs for infrastructure improvements in the area, including the construction of a traffic signal at Haas Drive, which you'll see here. This is the northernmost entrance to Emory-Riddle University. That would involve a realignment through here. It would provide the church that's already located within the city access via a traffic signal. It would provide Emory-Riddle a second traffic signal to provide access, safer access to the students in and out of the campus. And it would provide access into this development, again, at a signalized intersection. Those are much safer than the current situation we have out there where it's take your life in your hands and make a left turn. One of the other things that this will include is another entrance up here that will have effectively a right-in, right-out circumstance that would allow for traffic circulation through the development and onto Willow Creek Road. Those are some of the things that you'll be seeing at a subsequent meeting. Again, we're opening a public hearing to take comments on the annexation itself, but the other parts of this, the rezoning and the subdivision plat, are important considerations for you today, as well as formal action to be taken at a future meeting. So that future meeting would include an ordinance to adopt the annexation. It would include a development agreement, again, to address infrastructure, including that traffic signal. It would include a rezoning and a general plan amendment. There's a minor change to the general plan because the area that was anticipated to be covered by the rocks at the rear of the property, when the map was drawn, it encroached much further towards the street than it was intended to. And then ultimately a subdivision plat. And I do have a copy of that to just give you an idea of potential layout. This has not been absolutely formalized yet. That will happen prior to it coming back to you for formal action. The only action required of you today is to open the public hearing, allow public comment, and then close the public hearing. And then next week, beginning September 4th, we would be able to accept an application, a petition, by the property owner to annex into the property into the city of Prescott. And at that point, we have a formal process that will be back to you as early as September 11th, but sometime in the near future. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And again, we do need to open a public hearing.
Do we have any comments from council?
I do, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Thanks, George, for the presentation. And one thing I would like to see, I've looked at the layout of this project. I think it's a great fit for the area, but what I'd like to see is an overall view of what has not been annexed in the city. In other words, properties to the north, south.
Okay.
Is this a county island as we speak right now?
It is not a county island by technical terms. It is surrounded. There is property to the north of it that's in the city. The county continues northward of there and then crosses through via Pioneer Parkway to connect with the rest of the county. So it's not technically a county island.
I think that's the point I was trying to make, is that the property to the north on that side is in the city, and the property to the south is the Armory Building and the Archery Range and the church that are in the city.
That's correct.
So
Everything south of it.
This is sitting in the middle of those two, and it only makes sense to have those all in the city. So that's my comment. Thank you.
So just for clarity, there is another county strip of property to the north of this that's not included in this annexation, separate ownership, future annexation is likely.
Councilman Good?
Yeah, I also agree with Councilman Blair that it's a logical annexation to fill in a gap that already exists because of the annexation of Deepwell, continuing on to the airport. Across the street, of course, is Embry-Riddle. And looking at the proposal for businesses and other tenants within this, I think it's just desperately needed. There's hardly any restaurants in that area. Having access to health care with a variety of different care settings, I think is an appropriate location. Potentially having additional open space available on the, I guess, the south side. It just has so many positives. Having that intersection there, I think, is going to make it safer for Embry-Riddle students and visitors, in addition, of course, to the location and the residents and visitors for the development. So I just think it makes a lot of sense, and I'd be supportive of the annexation.
Thank you, Councilman Good. Any other comments from, yes, Councilwoman Scholl?
George, can you talk a little bit about the open space acquisition we'll get from this?
So one of the things that's been discussed during the process has been for Dr. Ascari, the property owner, to deed to the city much of this Granite Dells area, most of this Granite Dells area, as open space. The city would acquire ownership of it. We would have full control over it, so no future development could occur in it. We would be able to use that space to help extend the trail system that exists in Heritage Park northward into this section of the Dells, making one more link to eventually get to the Constellation Trail and the area on the other side of the Dells that we already own and have access to. So this makes a significant step in that direction, and it preserves a significant topographic feature.
Thank you.
And I think that's about 20 acres, is
It
that
is.
right? As far as the open space that we would acquire.
We'll have very specific information with the subdivision plat on the acreage and the location of it when we bring that back to you in the future.
Very good. Any other comments?
And the beauty is we don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ascari.
Councilwoman, I'd
My name to Dr. AAA. I give good discounts.
Okay. There you go. Councilman Shiska.
Thank you, Councilwoman Orr. So, Dr. Ascari, could you kind of describe what you see, what your vision for that property is?
Well, this is my first public speaking. Do we have paramedics here in case if I pass out? And then if that happens, please do chest compression, no mount-to-mount resuscitation. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Ascari. Some people call me Kojak, or some people call me Dr. AAA. As I said, we give good discounts to patients that they can't afford. We're here. We've been here. I've been here in town for 10 years. I believe life is a mirror, and I'm originally Persian. We say as most, Kbar, most is from us to us. It's our community. And for past 10 years, I have seen so many 80 years old plus people have to go to Phoenix to get a hip replacement or knee replacement or a pacemaker placement, or any cardiac surgeries or anything else. My vision is to expand our medical community, to bring best doctors from Mayo Clinic, UCLA. Now we have the airport thanks to Robin Sabata and the community effort, and then have all the facilities, all the medical doctors we need to be in beautiful Prescott of Arizona. So no one have to drive out of here to do their medical needs. That's one thing. Next, I've seen a lot of students from Embry-Riddle students a lot of them are my patients. When their parents come visit them, they go to Scottsdale to stay in a hotel over there. There is no food industries close by. There is a huge need for an Alzheimer Institute in this town. We want to put some assisted living with memory care unit. We would love to put also a community wellness center, some pickleball, some exercise activities for the whole community.
Sports complex.
Yes. And then also we donated that 28 acres of beautiful granite dells. The gate is open. Anybody would go and do a nice hiking. It's amazing. My heart was to donate it to the community and people go for a nice hike. And you would really enjoy. And then eventually our goal is to connect it to the Constellation trail to Phippen Museum from the backside. And also, for past 10 years, I've been sincerely traumatized for so many of patients in this town when they lose mother, father, cancer, or by any tragedy. We don't have a place for people to go to get help. So that 7,000 square foot that we acquired by Steve Chadwick and his wife, and 2-acre land I donated to the community from my heart. We call it Nana's Hope Center. Nana was my mother, we call her Nana. When Nana was in Prescott, she told me, good luck if anybody get married to you. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, you go dark, you come dark. I said, what's the definition of that? She said, what time did you left this morning? I said, 3:30 a.m. I was covering the hospital, both East Campus and West Campus. And she said, what time is it now? You come back, it's 10:30. Said, that's the definition of go dark and come dark. So I've been working, I've been running. I love my patient. We have over 20,000 patients. We brought a lot of doctors. We're about 16, 17 physicians. And we're looking to a group out of Texas to build a beautiful hospital and to support the community, bring all the doctors we need so people don't really need to drive from beautiful Prescott of Arizona. Number one, clean air in America. Number one, retirement community in America. To me, shame on me to allow that to happen. People go out of town. As a medical physician, we love Prescott and we love to support Prescott and Prescottonian.
Thank you, Dr. Ascari. I would like to say we attended an economic development seminar that was in Cottonwood, and Dr. Ascari was a speaker there, but it was about medical tourism. And I believe this complex will definitely be one where people will come to Prescott to get their medical care and to get well and enjoy our surroundings. So it would definitely be a medical tourism spot.
Absolutely. A rehabilitation. We don't have a medical rehabilitation hospital in Prescott. I remember one of my patients was Jim Musgrove, bless his heart. Yes. We all love him.
Absolutely.
He had to go to rehab. They want to send him to Payson.
Yeah.
So we could have it in Prescott. We have the space, we have the talent, we have the doctors. Me and my brothers in Phoenix, we're connected over 500 physicians. We could supply and bring everybody here for us, and not only us today, for the next generation, for the 20 years later on, for the young people in this town. So we create a lot of jobs for Embry-Riddle students.
And with that being said, I know we're going to call for public, but I would like to read a letter from Dr. Ayers.
Sure.
To Mayor Mingarelli. It says, Dear Mayor Mingarelli, I'm writing in support of the development planned by Dr. Ascari across from the campus of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. The development will benefit the community and the campus in several ways. It will provide entertainment, food services, additional lodging, and medical opportunities for our students, faculty, and staff. It will also provide employment opportunities for our students, who are among the best temporary and part-time employees in town, and it will help them work their way through college. I've reviewed the plans, and I'm also quite pleased that the traffic situation on Willow Creek Road will actually be safer and more efficient with the addition of the metered intersection at our north entrance. As a resident of the northern portion of Prescott, the addition of these businesses brings much-needed life and vitality to the communities here in the area. On behalf of the Emery-Riddle community, we fully support this development and look forward to working with the city and the developers to make it a smooth transition as it is developed. Dr. Frank Ayers, Chancellor, Emery-Riddle. So, do we have any other comments? So, Dr. Scari, I think we're going to take some public comments.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Charlie Arnold.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members, I dressed up today, so thank you,
Charlie.
And first and foremost, thank you for what you all do. Earlier, we heard some really negative things, and today we get to talk about something positive. You all know Dr. Ascari. You know his love for Prescott. I'm going to talk about the 3 items that George brought up and talk to the public that's going to be listening and learning more about this project. Number 1, Dr. Ascari loves Prescott. Number 2, Dr. Ascari loves the people of Prescott. My wife had to be transported to Phoenix because there was not a doctor here that could take care of an emergency situation. The next morning, Dr. Ascari was in Phoenix to make sure that she got the care she needed and was taken care of. What he's proposing to do, what he wants to do on the north end of town, is going to be a major benefit to our community. It will take us from where we have been to where we need to go on a medical front. Today, there are still specialties that we can't even touch in our community because we don't have the facilities, we don't have the doctors here. What he wants to do is going to do something for everyone in this community. He's a very special person. He cares about this community. I know that as you go through the annexation, there's going to be people that have questions. I was reading on Facebook today, oh, where's the water going to come from? Oh, what about all these houses? This is the first time in a while we get to talk about an annexation that isn't rooftops. Yeah. This is jobs. This is medical. Right. This is retail. These are the things that we need in North Prescott as we continue to see our community grow and evolve. And I'm very proud of what Dr. Ascari is proposing to do. This is something that will be great for Prescott. As we go into the zoning side, there's a lot of technicality to it, but at the end of the day, what he's proposing to do fits. And as Dr. Ayers spoke to in his letter, this is going to be an improvement to the Willow Creek corridor and certainly is something that's going to benefit not just Prescott, but our community. And I will be at every public hearing that I can be and supporting this because I think it has such a future for Prescott, Arizona.
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it. Any other comments?
No, Pro Tem.
Any other comments from council? Dr. Ascari, thank you for all you do for Prescott. I think we all have a story that we could tell how you've helped us medically, so thank you.
To be Prescottonian.
Well, we're proud to have you. Can I have a motion, please?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to close the public hearing for annexation Whispering Rock.
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Or not say, I'm sorry. That's
Say.
another meeting.
Yeah.
Go ahead, vote, please.
All right, let me get
Passes
Phil wants to keep going.
All right.
5-0.
Very good. Congratulations, Dr. Ascari. Congratulations to Prescott.
I would never let you down.
We know that. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the mayor's back.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Let's move on to item 9C, please.
Adopt ordinance number 2018-1628, approving an operating agreement and terminal building lease between the city and SkyWest Airlines.
All right. Always good to talk about the airport. Dr. Sabat is with us. Hey, Robin.
Hello.
Oh, what do you need?
There you go.
Hard act to follow. It's, okay. So we have the good news, of course, that the new air service is starting tomorrow. Nonstop service to Denver and LA. Yay.
Yes.
Everybody, if you haven't bought your tickets yet, please do. It's amazing. And so as part of that, the Essential Air Service contract does run for a 2-year period. And so we do need a lease with the airline. And so I'm here to ask for the airline operating agreement and the lease for SkyWest Airlines to be approved. Just a few of the details I want to share. This is a significant increase over the previous lease agreement with the prior air carrier. To put it into context, we were at about $40,000 a year in income with the prior airline. With this one, we are looking at a lease that will yield approximately $240,000 a year. So it is a significant increase. It's not totally apples to apples. This is a larger aircraft. It's using much more fuel. They're choosing to use approximately 388,000 gallons of fuel a year, and we do have a fuel flowage fee off of that. That's relative to the prior carrier that was using about 40,000 gallons of fuel a year. So that's a significant increase. This carrier is compensating us for ARF fees, which is aircraft rescue and firefighting fees for the standby services provided by our amazing fire department. In addition, they are leasing additional square footage. We did craft an outdoor baggage claim collection area for them at their request, and so that did yield some additional income possibilities there. And so we did receive approval from their legal department to move forward with this, and I think it's an excellent opportunity, not only for the carrier to provide great service to this amazing community, but also for us to be able to move from the red to the black on our operating budget, which is about $1.5 million a year.
Thank you for that, Robin. You've been in front of us a lot in the last few months, which is a good thing. There's a lot of amazing things happening at the airport, and tomorrow is a big day for us to have our first regional jet service in Prescott with a 50-seat RJ, and I commend you on that and this agreement. Great job, as always, and really we're just starting to take off. Yeah, thanks for your work. Questions, comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Fortunately, many of the members of the council, along with myself, attended the Arizona League of Cities and Towns annual meeting last week in Phoenix. And we, several of us attended the presentation on airport and economic development, where we heard from the manager of the Phoenix Deer Valley Airport. And not being a aviation professional by any means, especially compared to your vast experience, it was good to know that some of the details that were shared with us as far as the fuel fees, the FBO fuel fees, and the lease, typical range of ground lease and things like that fit right in. In fact, I think we even have some of the either high end or even exceed some of the ranges here. So looking at the lease itself, I think it's very well crafted. The numbers look great. And we're just moving forward at a rapid and a very effective pace. So I thank you for your leadership, and you just continue to impress me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did anybody talk about tomorrow? No.
We did mention that something special is happening tomorrow. Yeah. Anything else from the council? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-1628.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
All right, let's move on to item 9D, please.
Adopt resolution number 2018-1652, renaming Prescott's Commercial Service Airport to Prescott Regional Airport Ernest A. Love Field.
Well, in keeping with what we just discussed, this airport is growing up, and I think it's been recognized not only by the city of Prescott, but by our neighbors, that this has been an incredible contribution to the community. There's been some discussion about whether or not the title of Prescott Municipal Airport, Ernest A. Love Field, really captures the direction that the airport's going into the future. In keeping with the vision of the prior mayors and the current city council and leadership, we moved forward to explore the possibility of renaming the airport. And having spoken to several community members as well as our airport tenants, we feel that it's a good renaming to move to Prescott Regional Airport, Ernest A. Love Field. So it still remembers our namesake, but it also shows the regional nature and the regional development that we're moving toward. Excuse me. And so we are proposing this. It should cost about $5,000 to redo some of the signage and the stationery. We will have to submit this name change to the FAA and to the state authorities as well. It'll take about 60 to 90 days for that to all go through. There should be no problems associated with that. So we see this as, with the advent of this new service and the regional nature that this service will provide, we think this is a good time to make this change.
Very good. I appreciate that. You know, all along here, Robin, with your leadership and this council, we've made it very clear that we want to partner with our neighbors, with other municipalities nearby, and I think we've done that effectively, and we've seen some great support from Prescott Valley, Chino Valley, and others. And I think this name change really reflects what we're trying to do as we partner with our neighbors. This is an asset that, while we hold this asset, it's something we want to leverage for the whole region. And I think we can do that effectively, and this name will certainly reflect that. So thanks for bringing this to our attention. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Mayor, not only for Yavapai County, but I've been thinking a lot about what this does for northern Arizona. I mean, it truly, our region has just expanded. So I think, again, it is a great optic that we are a regional airport. Even though we're owned by the city of Prescott, we are a regional airport. So.
Councilman,
And in fact, several of the calls that we've gotten recently have been from, say, the Sedona Chamber of Commerce and Flagstaff, and they're actually looking at shuttle service down to Prescott Airport. So we are looking at a range that is outside of perhaps what we even expected.
Yeah, greater than the Quad City. Yes. Yeah, that's good. Councilman Good?
Yeah, I think the leakage study that we presented to SkyWest and that so impressed them to be such a aggressive bidder on our EAS contract had a very wide range and showed how many people potentially would be using our airport. So I think with this name change, more people are going to feel that it's their airport. It's inclusive. It recognizes our neighbors, and even though it's symbolic, I think we'll still keep our code, PRC, right?
Yes.
Prescott Regional.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 2018-1652 to rename Prescott's Commercial Service Airport to Prescott Regional Airport, Ernest A. Love Field.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
It's a bright day. Thank you so much, Robin. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the tarmac.
Thank you for your continued support. Appreciate it.
All right, let's move on to item 9E.
Award of city contract to Sunland Asphalt and Construction, Inc. for the FY19 pavement rehabilitation project and approval for night work.
Thank you. Steve Oro's Public Works. Before you, this item is to award a construction contract to Sunland Asphalt and Construction for our FY19 pavement rehabilitation program. This project includes 2 corridors on Willow Creek Road from Mitchell to Green and Pulliam, and then Gail Gardner from Willow Creek over to Iron Springs. Both these roadways are in need of rehabilitation. The pavement preservation techniques will not give them the extended life that we're looking for. Our staff prepared the construction documents for this project, and the plans were put out to bid in July. We received 4 bids, all within $103,000. It was a very competitive bid. Sunland was the low bid. We've worked with them in the past and reconfirmed their bonding and references and such, and staff is recommending approval of the low bid in the report. A couple of highlights for this project. The Gail Gardner portion of the work, due to the access to local businesses, will be done solely at night to reduce the impacts to Walmart and errands appliance and et cetera through there. Excuse me. The Willow Creek Road segment is a main artery in the city. Majority of that corridor is 4 travel lanes. With the contractor needing 2 lanes generally to do their work, the traffic impacts will be noticeable, as was in the last pavement rehabilitation we just completed in June on Willow Creek Road as well. In light of that, we have made numerous efforts to reach out to the public, whether it's been direct mail, door to door. We have a public meeting tomorrow night at 4:30 at Mountain Oak School. We've reached out to radio, newspaper, Facebook, and we have the meeting today to inform the public that this project is coming. As it gets closer, it'll be mid-September when the work on Willow Creek will start. Part of the approval today is to give us the opportunity to work with the contractor to do some of this work at night, to get the work done as quickly and as efficiently as possible to reduce the impacts to the motoring public. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Questions or comments from the council? Any public comment? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, move to approve contract number 2019-054 to Sunline Asphalt and Construction Incorporated and approve associated night work.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Everyone please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thanks, Steve. Let's move on to item 9F.
Award of contract for professional service agreement with Southwest Groundwater Consultants.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leslie Grazer, Water Resource Manager. So this item is within the city's, or the Water Resource Management's portion of their work requirements for future water supplies, specifically the Comprehensive Agreement Number 1. The city is seeking a contract with Southwest Groundwater, with Jim Holt being the technical specialized assistant. He is formerly a City of Prescott employee and a former area director of the Prescott Active Management Area. He'll be joining to complete day-to-day specialized work requirements in the Water Resource Management Division of Public Works, primarily for Comprehensive Agreement Number 1, the 3-party agreement to complete the monitoring and modeling for the Big Chino Subbasin. This contract is not his. The overall Comprehensive Agreement Number 1 contract is $5.6 million, and it has 6 active subcontracts. There are ongoing monthly meetings, an annual report is coming due, and other activities that are occurring within the basin will also need support. Briefly on the active subcontracts, we have both USGS data collection reports coming in, which will require careful, specialized review to complete those and move those towards our modeling team that's in progress. The Southwest Groundwater is currently working on completing a deliverable on the well drilling that was done out in the Big Chino. They're the monitor wells that we've brought to you in the past, that contract. And then further is the modeling contract itself is moving quickly with the 2nd and 3rd technical memos on the model's geologic layering, and the model build is also forthcoming. The city is currently the chair for the modeling committee and responsible for the monthly meetings and the communications that we need to have on a regular basis among the other party members, SRP and Town of Prescott Valley, the specialized technical consultants for both parties, the ones that live up here and the ones that live downstream, and then our multi-agency stakeholders, which include Arizona Department of Water Resources and others that will be looking at this future water supply as well. I mentioned the upcoming annual report, so by the end of the week, all of our items are due so that we can produce a draft to review by mid-September. So we are moving fast and furious right now. There's related items up in the Big Chino that this contract can support. So the city has been contacted and approved a data collection in the Big Chino Water Ranch area by ITC, which is the closed loop pump storage, and their subcontractor HGI. We had notification just on Monday that they are returning to the ranch this week and will be active for the next 10 days. Further, the city's been notified by ITC consultants on their modeling project that the preliminary report addressing ITC's initial efforts to assess possible effects of groundwater pumping by the closed loop storage facility is forthcoming and there'll be a group meeting in mid-September. So basically September's full and this contract is incredibly busy for the next 2 years. So we've been holding steady the best we can. So in summary, several contracts have upcoming deliverables that require extensive review, internal and external meetings, and information data management. The city is seeking specialized professional services to meet contract deadlines that exceed existing resources the city has, staffing. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Leslie.
As quickly as I could.
You did a great job. Questions or comments from the council? Public? No. Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to award city contract number 2019-079.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Leslie. Let's move on to item 9G.
Approval to purchase 2 2019 Peterbilt automated side load refuse vehicles from Rush Truck Center.
Good afternoon. My name is, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I apologize. This is my first time. So, my name is Justin Hill with the Fleet Services. The Fleet Service Division is working in conjunction with the Solid Waste Division and requesting authorization to purchase 2 new automatic side load solid waste vehicles. The new ASL vehicles will replace truck numbers 1097 and 1185. The new ASLs will consist of 2019 Peterbilt refuge chassis and Scorpion side load bodies. The Solid Waste Division utilizes ASL collection vehicles to service over 31,000 commercial and residential containers citywide. These vehicles require regular maintenance to ensure reliability and maximum useful life. As the vehicle ages, key components suffer failure, requiring the repair or replacement. Repairs and replacement escalate each year the vehicle is in service. The Solid Waste Division replaces aging vehicles used in solid waste operations which are at or approaching 100,000 miles and have reached the end of their useful life and are becoming mechanically unreliable. The vehicle number 1097 is 13 years old and in need of extensive repairs, including major body repairs and all new the hydraulic system. Vehicle number 1185 is 11 years old and in need of extensive repairs, including motor repairs, hydraulic cylinder replacements, new packer valves, and extensive electrical issues. The replacements were reviewed and approved by the Fleet Asset Review Board for FY19. The vehicle replacements considerations include the cost for repairs far exceed the vehicle's value, and the vehicle is vital to the daily operations of the Solid Waste Division. The funding is of $588,782.94 is available within the Solid Waste Division for the FY19 budget. And at this time, can I take any questions, please?
Great job. Any questions or comments?
Cost of doing business.
Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2019-062.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
All right, let's move on to item 9H, please.
Approval of purchase for 2 2019 marked patrol vehicles and 1 2019 unmarked investigations vehicle from Peoria Ford.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Mike Carr, Fleet Services. Fleet Service Division, working in conjunction with the Police Department, is requesting permission to purchase 2 new patrol vehicles and 1 investigation vehicle to replace 3 existing vehicles that have met the city's need for replacement. The vehicles will be purchased through Peoria Ford contract, and we use that contract again for competitive pricing. The vehicle replacements were reviewed by the Fleet Asset Review Board and approved for FY19 replacement. The Fleet Asset Review Board considers the age, mileage, and work order history of the vehicles. Assets, the 3 assets that we are replacing, 1123 is a 2005 Crown Victoria, 13 years old and has approximately 118,000 miles. 1327 is a 2010 Ford Crown Victoria, is 8 years old and has approximately 152,000 miles. 1330 is a 2008 Crown Victoria, which is 10 years old and has approximately 112,000 miles. All these vehicles that we've talked before with the Crown Vics, as the older they get, it's harder to get parts for them. We're having a lot of problems right now with all the lighting and siren components of it, and also vehicle wiring harnesses. So if the vehicle has an issue with the wiring harness, it's been down sometimes 3 to 4 months per vehicle. So these are big issues for us with these vehicles currently. The Fleet Asset Review Board will consider all 3 of these assets for disposition at the next meeting. And like I said, we're utilizing the State of Arizona law enforcement contract to receive the best pricing possible, and funding of $167,983.26 is available in the general fund. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Questions, comments? Anybody? Motion?
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2019-084.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Let's move on to item 9I.
Approval to purchase one 2019 Peterbilt automated front-load refuse vehicle from Rush Truck Center.
I'll try this again and see if I can do a little better. So, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Justin Hill with the Fleet Services. The Fleet Service Division is working in conjunction with the Solid Waste Division and requesting authorization to purchase one new automatic front loader for the solid waste collection vehicles. The new AFL vehicle will replace vehicle number 1152. The new AFL will consist of one 2019 Peterbilt refuge chassis and one McNeilus front loader body. The Fleet Service Division is replacing aging vehicles used in solid waste operations, which are at or approaching 150,000 miles or 10 years and have reached the end of their useful life and are becoming mechanically unreliable. The Solid Waste Division utilizes AFL collection vehicles to service our 1,137 commercial and residential customers citywide. The vehicles require regular maintenance to ensure reliability and maximal useful of their life. As the vehicles ages, key components suffer failures requiring repairs and replacements escalate each year that the vehicle is in service. Vehicle number 1152 is 12 years old, and the front loaders is with over 201,000 miles, and it has 21,000 hours, over 21,000 hours on it. It is in need of front valve stack replacement, and the hydraulic system is in need of repair. The replacement's reviewed and approved by the Fleet Review Board for the FY19. The vehicle replacement's consideration includes the cost for repairs for exceeding the vehicle's value, and the vehicle is vital to the daily operation of the Solid Waste Division. The funding of $302,674.75 is available within the Solid Waste Divisions for the FY19 budget. And if there's any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Good job. Comments, questions? Need a motion here?
Mayor, I'll be glad to make this motion due to the fact that the hydraulic fluids are all over my driveway. Recommend to move the approval for city contract number 2019-065.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks, Mike. Let's move on to item 9J, please.
Award of city contract to IMS Infrastructure Management Services for the Pavement Management System Lucidity Implementation Project.
I think it's afternoon still. Good afternoon. My name's Steve Oroz. Yes. Public Works. This item is not a construction contract. This one is for services to help staff do a better job at prioritizing our pavement management program. Currently, let's take a step back. We used to use 2 pairs of eyes and a Excel spreadsheet is how we used to manage our pavement management, which was a huge improvement over guessing. Over time, technology's improved, and we've acquired the Lucidity software module that we use. Lucidity is an asset management tool we use citywide. We've acquired the pavement management module for that. However, there's a lot of data that's needed to make the program give us the information that we need. Working with our GIS system, number 1 up there in the upper left. This contract will do the data collection. It gets rid of the human factor and uses technology, lasers and other tools that are mechanical and give us consistent results throughout the whole street system. One of the things that we looked at, we could have done the field assessments ourselves, not using the same high-tech tools that IMS has available. However, it would take literally years to go through our over 700 lane miles of roadway to get the same information we're going to get in a few months using this vendor. Next, once the data is collected, it goes into the software, and there's physical data points, there's algorithms that give us the curves of how long the pavement will last if we do certain treatments to it and such, so it'll give us a much more reliable method of prioritizing improvements and maintenance for our huge asset we have in the pavement program. Why IMS? IMS has successfully completed over 35 implementations of this pavement module in Lucidity in the state of Arizona, or I'm sorry, not in Arizona, but across the country. So they know what they're doing. We've selected them based on some other agencies' recommendations as well. We've done some reference checks, and what we're going to be getting at the end is a reliable, efficient tool to manage our pavement program. Part of it will be at the end of this program, we'll have a 5-year outlook of if we expend X dollars, we're going to have this improvement in our system. If we spend Y dollars, we'll have a less of a system. So it'll help us spend the dollars wisely to keep our asset in the best shape possible for the citizens of Prescott. So with that, this item before you is to approve the contract with IMS to help us get this up and running. If there's any questions, we're glad to answer them.
Thank you, Steve. I think I see Councilman Good trying to get on the board there. Go ahead.
I think he's interested in that computer that's in the middle.
Steve, as you know, I've met with you and Craig on a number of occasions and discussed our pavement rehabilitation overall city plan. And I just think this program is sorely needed and long overdue. We've got such a vast networks of roads that are in various degrees of condition and need of repair, and being able to manage those effectively while their condition changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
So having something a little more substantial than the interocular fusion test,
I like that. That's
the old
really
eyeballing
technical.
it, I think is going to be a big help for the city as soon as you can get this thing started and going. So I strongly support this. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Motion?
Mayor, I move to award city contract number 2019-073 to IMS Infrastructure Management Systems Services.
Second.
Motion second, please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Moving on to item 9K, please.
Award of city contract to Fan Contracting Incorporated for the Washington Avenue and Churchill Street Reconstruction Project and Amendment A4 for post-design services with Civil Tech Engineering Incorporated.
All right. Still Steve Oros, Public Works. This is a construction contract and post-design services to reconstruct North Washington from Sheldon to Churchill, and Churchill from Washington to Arizona. The street has reached a point where we had talked about a few minutes ago, the rehabilitation and milling and repaving. This street has gone to a point where it needs a full reconstruction. There are water, sewer, and drainage improvements, very modest improvements. And we did go through a right sizing on this project earlier this year, and this is a result of that process. We did put out the project out to bid. according to our requirements, and we did receive 3 bids, and Fan Contracting was the apparent low bidder. We've worked with them in the past, checked out the references, and everything's checked out, and we're making a recommendation of the award of that bid. Secondarily, we have a post-design contract proposed with Civil Tech Engineers, the original design engineer, to work with us through the construction, to document what the contractors built, and to give us the records that we need for long-term use of managing our utility system. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer it.
Councilman Good? It doesn't show up, but I saw you hitting it.
I actually didn't push the button that time.
Oh,
so.
wow. Okay. Councilman Sischka.
I just have a comment. It's about damn time.
Isn't it?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Ditto that. 2 years ago, I think we were at YEI, and Brad was ready to pack up then, so to get you guys ready in there, and then here we are finally. So, good thing.
We have a much better project, and it's going to get done.
Good.
Other questions or comment? I'll make a motion to award city contract number 2019-068 to Fan Contracting and approve amendment A4 to city contract number 2015-186 A4 with Civil Tech Engineering.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Item 9L.
Thank you.
Award of city contract to Kimley Horn and Associates for the professional engineering design for a traffic signal at the intersection of Willow Lake Road and Prescott Lakes Parkway.
Good evening. I think it's evening now.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. Thanks for pointing that out, Ian.
I'll try to go quick. So this item is to approve an on-call design contract with Kimley Horn and Associates for a new traffic signal at Willow Lake Road and Prescott Lakes Parkway. This intersection has experienced increasing traffic and delays for several years, and following a warrant study in early summer, it finally met warrants for a traffic signal to be installed. The project includes the preparation of construction plans for the traffic signal, any required ADA curb ramp and sidewalk improvements, and other infrastructure improvements required to allow the signal installation to proceed. The design engineer will provide right-of-way and topographic survey, underground utility, location work, traffic signal related roadway design, and signing and pavement marking design. The project will result in improved traffic flow, pedestrian, and traffic safety. Public Works and the design engineer understand the need for the signal to be completed as soon as possible. To this end, the design schedule has been streamlined to get the 100% plans completed in the fall or sooner, whenever we can. Additionally, Public Works is looking at options to reduce the time needed to get the project constructed so that we can move this project quickly and get it out as soon as possible. We're looking at several options, assuming the design is approved, to make that happen. JOC, other ways to make that happen. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I just want to say, Ian, thank you for taking this back in and looking at it again and kind of downsizing it and speeding up the time, because I do think it's really critical. So as I read it, basically we're going to have this done by the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the design done right in November.
Right.
So then we're looking to try to get right into construction and hopefully be, trying to get it done right in the early first part of the year.
Great, thank you for that.
And the price looks great compared to what it was starting out, so thank you.
Yeah, they reduced it significantly. We took some things out and just reduced them.
That's right, yeah, good.
Yep, good work. Any other comment? If not, a motion?
Yes, I'll move this. May I move to award city contract number 2019? Nope, wrong one.
No.
Recommend. We're on L, right?
We're on
Thank
L.
you. It's been a long day, Mayor.
Yeah, no kidding.
Move to award city contract number 2019-050.
Second.
Motion and second, please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Ian. Item 9M.
Approved comprehensive sign plan for Yavapai Regional Medical Center.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and city manager. Katie Peterson, community planner. Pull up this. So this is regarding a proposed comprehensive sign plan for Yavapai Regional Medical Center at 1003 Willow Creek Road. This covers multiple parcels and existing buildings. They have a plan for 3 capital improvement projects. So this is intended to cover both proposed upgrading of existing signs as well as new and future signs. The land development code just requires that it meet the criteria of being generally consistent appearance of all signs with an objective of improved design in exchange for greater number of signs or larger sign area than what would be allowed by code. This is an aerial of the site, so as you can see, it covers the whole area of the regional medical center. Their site plan shows where in red, the red dots represent where they're proposing updated monument signs, basically at all the entrances to the campus. The black dots represent the wall signs where they're proposing updated wall signs. In all, they're proposing 24 signs consisting of 13 wall signs, 11 freestanding signs. That includes 5 replacement freestanding signs and 6 new freestanding signs. Those are both identifying buildings with special services and directional signs around the campus. The total square footage is 1,307. Future signs, they're asking for an allowance of 600 square feet total allowance for future signs to cover the signage that they will need for those 3 capital improvement projects, which are, that's expected to consist of 173 square feet buildings and parking areas, as well as any other future buildings or parking that will be needed. Medical service use, clearly visible directional and location signs are crucial just to meet the other criteria in the code. The sizes of signs proposed exceed what would be allowed by code, so they're asking for multiple monument signs on each parcel, frontage, the site interior, and wall signs. The proposal meets existing future needs of the site and also complements the existing site. Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously 7-0 on July 26, 2018, recommending approval of the comprehensive sign plan for the Regional Medical Center. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Katie. Questions, comments? Council? Not, will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve comprehensive sign plan SIG 18-001.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Katie. Let's move on to item 9N.
Approval to purchase one 2019 Peterbilt chassis and one combination sewer cleaner body from VACCON Incorporated.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Carr, Fleet Services. Fleet Service Division and the Wastewater Division are requesting permission to purchase a replacement combination sewer cleaner truck. The truck will be purchased from VACCON Incorporated using HGAC cooperative contract pricing. The replacement was reviewed by the FARB board for FY19 replacement. Wastewater Division utilizes the combination sewer cleaner truck daily to clean roots, grit, grease, and other debris from the wastewater collection system, including mains, manholes, lift station, vaults, and more. Equipped with all-wheel drive, the truck is able to access many of the city's manholes located in tough terrain, sandy soils, and other areas that are inaccessible with a typical truck. Additionally, the collection system is able to be used intermittently to perform hydro excavations, test holes, and utility locates for future maintenance activities and capital improvements. The new truck will be purchased and used by the Wastewater Division. The truck will replace asset number 1003, which is owned by the Streets Division and is currently being utilized by the Streets Maintenance and Water Operations Division. Vehicle 1003 is a 2002 Volvo with 282,447 miles. I had to check that because I didn't think that was accurate, but that's what it shows. And 14,700 hours. Vehicle 1003 will be sold at auction and removed from the city fleet, pending approval from the Fleet Asset Review Board. The current vehicle, asset number 1234, is being used by the Wastewater Division. It will be repurposed to the Street Maintenance and Water Operations Division in place of the retiring vehicle 1003. Although 1234 is a 2007 and has 92,000 miles on it, it still has a value in being repurposed to the other two departments so that it can be used for other city operations. And then the Street Maintenance and Water Operations divisions, they'll be using that for hydro excavation, drainage maintenance, and other services such as potholing or utility service locates. The Street Maintenance and Water Operations division will each contribute $50,000 towards purchasing the vehicle 1234, which will ultimately go towards the purchase price of the new vehicle. The replacement truck was quoted with comparable specifications utilizing the HGAC contract pricing to receive the best possible pricing. Funding of $427,608.22 is available in the FY19 wastewater budget. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
When you do a hydro excavation, I want to check that out. The next one, yeah, it's very cool.
Absolutely.
Any questions or comments for Mike? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve city contract number 2019-082.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you, Mike. We're almost there, folks. 9-0.
Public hearing for proposed annexation, City of Prescott General Plan Designation, Recreation, Open Space, and Industrial, Yavapai County Zoning, Residential, Rural.
Good evening, Katie Peterson, Community Planner again. This is on the same schedule as the proposed Whispering Rock annexation. So again, this action is to close the public hearing that was required by state law. I have the site plan up if anyone has any questions. But generally, the idea is there will be a rezone that will be addressed at a subsequent hearing, but this one is a joint city-private application. So it's following the same process and same schedule as Whispering Rock annexation. If there are any questions, we can answer those.
Okay, questions or comments from the council?
Yeah, Katie, can you describe the intended use for this property?
Right. So right now, first of all, the county zoning is residential rural. With the annexation, it would be, the equivalent would be industrial general, or sorry, the initial rezone would be residential rural for the intended use. We will be eventually doing the rezone to industrial general for use as a contractor's storage yard. And that is, you can see the zoning here where that use will be taking place. There's a portion of it that is recreation open space, the eastern north portion. That will remain undisturbed, so the proposed site for the industrial use is that western portion.
Yeah, that's near that drainage kind of channel.
Right, the natural area, yes.
Size, yeah.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion.
Hold on, Mayor. You have to open. You have to
I'm sorry.
Open the public hearing and then see if there's anybody out there who wants to say anything.
Oh, yeah. Is there?
No, Mayor.
Sorry. Thank you for keeping me on track.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Please vote.
Passes 6-0.
Is there anything else to that?
Read it loud.
No. Katie, thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's an election tonight. I hope you all voted. I want to wish all the candidates the best of luck tonight. We started with Senator McCain and kind of a tribute that Mayor Pro Tem brought to us, and I'd like to end with a quote from Senator McCain and then also a farewell. He was a Navy pilot, as you probably all know. This is the quote from Senator McCain. "We are Americans first, Americans last, Americans always. Let us argue our differences, but remember, we are not enemies, but comrades in a war against a real enemy, and take courage from the knowledge that our military superiority is matched only by the superiority of our ideals and our unconquerable love for them." And then this saying is for shipmates as a farewell. Senator McCain, fair winds and following seas, and may your big jib draw. This meeting is adjourned.